Hi there, this is Elise Bennin, your marketing mentor. And this is the podcast for you if and only if you are ready to leave the feast or famine syndrome behind, and I mean for good. So if I asked you how you're using AI these days, what would you say? If you asked me, I would say so many ways. Besides having trained my own bot, Artificial Elise, which I make available to everyone who has the simplest marketing plan and my one-on-one coaching clients, of course. My own personal use includes mostly indulging my curiosity. I also analyze feedback that I get, and I also use it as a strategic thinking partner to help determine next steps and directions for the business. But I don't actually use it for writing because I like to write. But when I asked one of my coaching clients, Kate Purcell, who is a creative strategist and designer, she started sharing so many interesting ways that I just had to bring her on the podcast to share them with you. In today's episode, we mostly talked about how she uses AI to do things she could never do before for her clients, but we also talked about how she uses AI to streamline her own marketing process. Lots of very actionable ideas here for you, so listen and learn. Hello, Kate. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Elise. It's great to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. And before we launch into anything, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay. So I'm Kate Purcell. I am a creative strategist and visual designer, and I work with social change organizations to help them communicate their impact.
Beautiful. And actually, how's business, Kate?
Business is, that's a good question. Good. Is, I guess, the basic answer. It's been a tough year, I would say, for social impact organizations, a year and a half. But my business is, I would say, steady at the moment.
And say a little bit more about what exactly you do for these organizations, social impact organizations.
Sure. Well, I've really been lately using the term impact communications more and more. You know, as a creative strategist, I do a lot of different things under the quote unquote creative bucket. I do a lot of work on impact reports lately. That has been, over the past few years, a focus of mine. I used to do a lot of websites. I still sometimes do them. I have several branding engagements right now. But really, it's kind of all around helping social impact organizations communicate. So whether that be through a marketing piece, a report, a website. And what I do is, I would say I was a graphic designer 20 years ago, but now it's really broader than that. It's really just comes down to helping them communicate, but definitely with a focus on the visual, I would say.
And it's your business, but I know you have people who help you, and we're going to talk about how you're using AI to help you. So before we launch into that, just give a little context for like what your business is or who else is involved. Don't name any names or anything, but like what kind of help do you already have? And then we'll add the AI layer.
Sure. So I have, I would say, like partners and then contractors. So there's a couple of people I work with who are more of the partner quality. One of them specifically is a website developer. So we go in on projects together where I do a lot of the strategy and the design work, and he does the website technical development. I have some folks helping with, I kind of think about it as more like an assistant or a project management role. That person, let's say we were working on a website, might come in and help put the content in or develop some graphics. And I have other designers that I work with who help with, really, I kind of hand off a lot of stuff to them. Like maybe they will work on a report and I'll do the creative direction and they'll do a lot of the production work. So most of the time, the people I work with, it's collaborative, where I'm trying to keep the high level creative on track. And maybe there's a lot of more detail-oriented work that they do. And then I have a couple other folks who are maybe like writers or strategists that I'll work with on projects. So they're not, I wouldn't call them part of my business, but they're part of my kind of network and constellation of people I work with.
Mm-hmm. And say a little bit more, if you would, about the evolution to call yourself a creative strategist as opposed to just a graphic designer in the past, because I do feel like that's the direction a lot of my clients are moving, and yet they don't always feel comfortable calling themselves a strategist because they didn't go to business school or whatever. The thing is in their head that they think they should have done in order to use that word. But how do you think about that, and what do you actually do with your clients?
It's funny. Years ago, I wrote a blog post about creative strategy, and the word strategy really comes from war, actually, like people, planning their campaigns, which also comes from war. So that was kind of interesting to realize. I was like, oh, that's not the greatest connection, but really it's just, it's about setting a goal and being tactical. And so, but actually it's interesting they bring that up though, because I knew you wanted to talk about AI. And so I sort of made a list of all the things AI helps me with. Mm-hmm. There's also a creative director. And I think I might also call myself a creative director. Although I think of a creative director as more somebody who's working on like high level concepts. Like, there's a big campaign to try to get everybody to like drink more water. And the creative director pulls together all these resources. And so that's the reason that I often don't use that term, because I'm not working at a high concept level. I think of a strategist as more like, we have a goal, like let's take a report. We have these things we have to communicate. We've done all this research and we want to communicate it. And here's our audience. And here's the content we have, but we need to figure out how do we present it in a way that's interesting. Now, a graphic designer might be more like, give me the content, tell me what you want, and I will do it. Whereas with the creative strategy, it's more like, you have an idea what you want to say, but I might work with them to think about, well, do you really need all this content in here? Or maybe there's a piece that would make it more interesting. Do you have a story? And it's something that at least you've helped me lean into over the years, like bringing the ideas I have to the clients I work with. And that's why I use the term creative strategist. And it's not like a formal term, I don't think, but it's all sort of dancing around this idea of like having a goal, working towards it, being creative about how you get there, and not just taking orders, I guess.
Right. That's the phrase that was coming into my mind. You're more than an order taker. A graphic design in that context, as you laid it out, is the order taker. Give me the information, give me the content. I will lay it out, as opposed to, all right, here's the content. Now let's decide how we use it to communicate the message.
Yes, exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And one more question about that. When you call yourself a creative strategist, do you think your clients know what that means, care what that means, think that's what they need? Like, what is that communication and positioning?
That's a good question. I don't think they know what it means. I mean, I like to use it because I want my clients to know whether or not it's explicit or implicit that I can do more for them. I would say that most clients come to me, though, as they typically have my whole career, which is they have an idea of what they want to do and they need some help. So they're not really coming to me like, oh, I have this goal. How do I get there? I would love more clients like that, But usually they have a pretty concrete idea of like, oh, we have a report we need to release, or we have a website we want to build, or we need a new logo and brand. And sometimes the job is to like open their eyes to what else they might need, or maybe they don't need what they think they need. But that is hard. That is not the easiest thing to do.
Okay. And so we're going to talk about AI, but I want to tee it up with this idea, which is not original to me, but everyone I respect who talks about AI out there is talking about it in kind of a two-pronged way. One is efficiency oriented and the other is opportunity oriented. And so the easiest way to use AI is to basically let it help you be more efficient, more productive in the things you're already doing. And whether or not you use it that way or I use it that way, that's a choice, right? But that's the easy way, in my opinion. The The part we have to get our minds around, because we don't know yet still, like what AI is actually capable of helping us with, is the more opportunity oriented. But ever since this thought came to me, or I received it and started thinking about it, what is clear is that AI can help you do things you could never do before. And when we were talking recently, you literally said that to me. AI is helping me do things I could never do before. And that's what turned the light bulb on in my mind and say, okay, well, we need to talk about this on the podcast then. So I'm always listening for that, by the way, for something that I think, oh, that would be a really good topic for the podcast. There's an invitation. So, how you can back up if you want and talk a little bit about your experience with AI, your take on AI. But what I want to get to is, how is it helping you do the things that you never could do before? And what are those things?
Yeah. And it's funny because being a visual designer, like whenever I talk to people about AI and I explain some of my use cases, a lot of people are surprised because so many people use it for things like writing and thinking. And I do too. But I also use it for digital visual creation, which is certainly a lot of people do. But most of the people, the day-to-day use is words. Yeah, that's an interesting framing, efficiency versus opportunity. I mean, I think I definitely am more interested in opportunity and use it more that way because I find that like with trying to be more efficient, I usually just feel kind of burned out. Like, have you heard of that term, brain fry that people are using? Like, I definitely experience that when I try to just be really efficient with AI because it just like, I can't keep up. My human brain can't.
Keep up with what exactly?
Keep up with like managing multiple AIs and how fast they're all working and switching from project to project. It's just like, it feels horrible. So I don't want to do that. And then the opportunity ones. So here, I'll just share it because I made a list.
Go ahead, give us your list.
Some of the things that like I feel excited about for AI because I have like many Americans, I'm like have a kind of doomsday feeling about it sometimes. One of the big ones was it was last year. I was hired for one of my first sole illustration projects. So I wouldn't call myself an illustrator, but I have always liked drawing and illustrating, and I have done sometimes for clients, but usually it's time consuming and clients don't usually have a budget for it. So, but I was hired to do a specific illustration project and I absolutely loved it. And they did too. And then not long after that project, maybe 6 months, I came across a tool called exactly.ai. And it was like, we'll take your illustrations as an illustrator and we'll train an AI on it, and then we'll make those illustrations look like yours. And it was kind of a cool company. They were very much wanting to make sure that the authors had copyright and, you know, they weren't just trying to steal their work. So I decided to experiment, and it was a little expensive, but I thought, well, this is just like an investment in seeing what this is about. And it did blow my mind. Like, it was like, I would ask it to draw something in my style. After I trained it, I had to give it like 15 images. And I was like, I actually kind of felt like I had drawn it. Like, it looked so much like the things that I illustrated that I felt a sense of ownership, you know? It's weird.
And so in what way is that then something you would never be able to do otherwise?
Well, I think the big thing is the cost. I mean, and actually, you know, I'm not an illustrator for a reason. Like, I enjoy it at times, but it's slow and kind of painstaking and it doesn't fit my personality that well. But I think more than that, like, my clients are mostly nonprofits and some social enterprises, and they don't have big budgets, and they rarely would they ever be able to afford an illustration. But I've been able to bring a lot of illustration work, and not just my own one style. I developed several styles because it was fun, right? It was like, okay, all I have to do is come up with 15 images in a certain style, and then I can have this style and ethically use that style for my clients. They really like it. And so I don't know, that to me just seems like a win. No one would have been doing those illustrations, and they wouldn't have been able to pay for it. So it just wouldn't have been happening. And I do think it adds value.
And I think this kind of fits another way that I've been thinking about AI. And when people complain, if you will, that it's taking work away, mostly what I see is it's not taking work away that was getting done some other way. It's basically adding opportunities for work that never would have been affordable before.
Yes. Well, and also, I mean, so here's another good example. Claude Design came out how many months ago? And one of the things when I do projects for websites is I create wireframes, and that's like a black and white sketch of what the website might look like before it gets designed. Because you're talking to the client about what content you want on there and how big do you want the images to be, and et cetera. And so when I first saw it, I was like, that was my thought. I was like, oh my God, this is going to take my job. It's doing exactly what I'm doing. But what I found so far anyway is that, well, one is that it helps me think through concepts that I might have honestly been a little too lazy to think through because I had to also do them. I was like, this is like, I don't know that I want to suggest this idea because then I have to implement it and show them what it looks like. Now I can just tell Claude Design, oh, try this. And then I get to see it too. And so I think it makes the ideas better because, and I don't mean lazy, but it's like, it's going to take me 5 hours to see if this is a good idea or not. I'm not going to do that.
Right. Because it's not affordable to you either.
Right. But if it only takes, 10 minutes and then we can see if it's a good idea or not. And then if it is, then we invest the time in it. That seems like, again, like a thing that wouldn't have existed before and now does.
I'm thinking back now to the beginning of the conversation about being a creative strategist also, because it seems like maybe, and it seemed like you were implying this before we've gotten into your list, but the idea that it helps with creative strategy, one thing you're saying now is it helps to build out some of the strategic ideas so that we can see if they're worth investing in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've also been enjoying, and I mean, I do try to be careful with brainstorming too much with AI because I know there's this thing, I've experienced it and I've read about it where it sort of can average things out. And a lot of the ideas comes up with sound maybe good to the user, but are actually the same as everybody else's or similar. But, in terms of concepting things, yeah, like, well, I have a client meeting and I love doing kickoffs. And really, I always think about it as when I start a project, it's like a treasure chest and you open it up and you just take everything out. Like you just ask lots and lots of questions and put it all on the floor. And then my job is to put it all back together into something. And what's cool is I can record those conversations now and AI can help me do some of that work too. So let's go back to the website idea. And by website, it could also be that it's a report or something like that on the web. And I can say, okay, well, here are my ideas. And actually, one of the things I try to do, I don't know if you do this, Elise, is like, I'll ask AI, when I ask it to come up with ideas, then I close the window or hide the window and come up with my own ideas because I want to see like how they compare, And I also don't want to rely on it so that I'm not coming up with my own ideas.
Right.
So often I do that, right? And then sometimes, I mean, I have to say frequently, it doesn't think of the ideas I think of, for better words. But it does occasionally come up also with, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. So it sort of like feels like just another staff member who's got some different ideas than me. And sometimes they're helpful and we merge them and one of the other nice things too, I guess, is that my brain can only hold a couple things at a time, but I don't miss things, right? So if we have, I'm just thinking about how many years ago I have a call with a client and then I'm like writing everything down on the notes, or maybe I record it or transcribe it. But now it's like, I don't have to worry about forgetting anything. If they made some comment about, you have to make sure this is included, that I don't have to, that doesn't get lost because the AI will remember it. Oh, that needs to get in there. And that's like a small thing, but it's not a small thing in terms of time. And because that's another thing that's on my list is like proofing documents, because I am definitely like not a details person, but I'm required to be frequently. I mean, will work on like a 60-page PDF document report. And we go through 15 rounds of revisions, and it's a really important thing for this organization, and they're going to print it and send it to all their investors. And, trying to proof something like that is hard. And now I can upload it and say, can you see if there's any errors? And there always are. So that's a small thing, but it saves me a lot of time. And it just makes, again, it saves my clients time because they're not having to come back and be like, oh, you missed something again.
And it makes you look better, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
One question that I'm imagining people are wondering also about is, so if you can use the AI this way, why couldn't your client and then, remove you from the equation, essentially?
Mm-hmm.
Are you concerned about that?
I mean, I think yes and no. Because actually, I think Ezra Klein had an interesting point about this because he was talking about his dermatologist or something. And he was like, yeah, I don't have to talk to my dermatologist anymore. So I just like Google all this stuff. But he's like, but then I realized like, oh, I actually really do need to go see the dermatologist because I have all these things I'm not sure about. And I do think there's a way in which, because I'm sure some of my clients are doing things that they might have asked me to do before. But I think for like the higher concept stuff, and probably that's a lot of like, I'm guessing, for instance, like a social media graphic. And I mean, in a way, like if I'm not thinking about the money, I'm like, great, that's a good thing. Like you should be making your own high quality social media graphics, assuming that you're using it right. But I do think there's a way in which people still have to make decisions and have judgment calls. And AI does not seem to be great at doing that in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, I don't know. I don't know why that's such a big gap because it can do it can do everything except have discernment, sort of.
Well, part of it also, I think, is that it's just not consistent. So maybe sometimes it has discernment and other times it has none at all. Or sometimes, it's just very variable because we don't know how it works.
Well, it's also, it can be really, I mean, it really is open to suggestion. I mean, how many times, this happened to me so many times where I've said, give me a piece of advice and it gives it to me. And then I'll argue with it and it'll be like, you're right. And then I'm like, well, I really can't trust it to make good decisions if it's just going to cave to me all the time. So that's what I think that like, I think for some things, maybe people will use it, but, and I don't know. I mean, there are days when I do really worry about that a lot, actually, where I'm like, oh, is someone just going to take this and just plug it in and it could be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
What else is on your list there?
Okay, on my list. Well, the other one is, okay, this is a small one, but writing headlines. So, a lot of times clients like send me stuff and they have headlines that are
bad.
Mediocre or bad. Yeah. And writing those headlines takes a while and takes some thought. And if that's not part of the scope of the contract, then I'm not going to probably spend a lot of time on it. But AI makes that process a lot faster. Mm-hmm. And so I think, of course the client could also do that, but they're not, or maybe they are, and they're just not doing a good job of it because they don't have that discernment. That's possible too. Right. I'm not sure. And then another one is photo editing. This is kind of a small one, but like, so nonprofit clients, and I imagine a lot of small businesses are like this, just have like not good photos. Mm. They have, like, I was just working the other day on a client, and it was like, they had these really cool stories of people that they'd helped, but all these photos were kind of grainy and like the background was really cluttered. And I was like, okay, first of all, it did a really good job of increasing the resolution. And then I was like, let's take out this cluttered background and just make a sky so we can put some copy on top of it, Mm-hmm. And it did an excellent job. And then you could take a photo that was like not that good, like cute, right? The people looked sweet, but the photo itself was just low quality and turn it into something that was like a real asset.
Mm. For my birthday recently, we took one of the photos that Bonnie Fanning had taken of me, and we wanted to make it a birthday picture. And so she did some kind of magic with the AI and put on me this gorgeous scarf. And I was like, I want that scarf. Now you have to sell me that scarf.
But see, that's an example too. Like Bonnie was doing that for you, right? You could have done that.
No, there's no way I'm doing that.
Well, that's what I mean, though. It's like everybody can't do everything either.
Yeah, no. This attitude that we're talking about is actually one of the ones that I think is most important to be aware of when you start feeling insecure about what AI will and won't or can and can't do, because I think clients choose you or me or whoever they choose because, number one, they like and trust the person and they don't want to have to deal with it themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I don't want to deal with my images. I want someone else to do it.
Well, and I'm telling my clients that I'm using AI.
That's another really important question. Talk more about that.
Well, I guess a couple things. Like, I kind of want to normalize it because I do know that some people aren't using AI, and I want my clients to feel the value that they're getting from me and know that I'm using AI. It's almost like the reverse of what you're saying. I want them to understand that they're still getting value from me working on these things, even if I'm using AI.
And how do they understand that?
Well, I mean, I'm making the assumption that they don't know how to necessarily do all the things that I'm doing, or
probably not.
It gives them the opportunity to say to me, like, oh yeah, I do that too, or I know how to do that, or can you show me how? I mean, no one's ever said that to me. But in the case of like proofing, like I tell clients that all the time because it's also like, I'm doing my best here, you know? And I think it's just like where things are going. So I think that being open about it just opens the relationship up. And maybe if they are thinking in their own minds, which they very well may be, well, couldn't I use an AI for this? Then maybe they'd be open to having that conversation with me as opposed to just doing it behind my back because they assume that I'm not using AI.
And so when you let them know you are, is that before you deliver the thing or after, or do you have a policy somewhere on your website or in your contract?
No, I don't have any of those things. I haven't thought about it. I mean, usually I just tell them. Like if I edit a photo, I just say, oh, I edited this photo. I mean, they can tell and they'll say there was a great opportunity to do this, or I use AI to write a bunch of headlines or they're good, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Because I had a client talking to me the other day about how they had used AI to do some task. And then when the client found out, they were infuriated. So there are clients, I would think, who are totally against AI also and don't want anyone using it. And then it's, I think, incumbent upon someone, maybe both parties, to discuss it in advance so that that doesn't happen.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, and another way that I've used AI, this is the last one on my list for client work specifically, it helps me with coding. So I worked on this report recently that I just love. It was my favorite report I've ever done. It's an interactive online report. And like, there was just I wanted to do some cool interactive stuff. And they didn't have the budget to hire like a special animation developer. And I knew how to do some of it, but I was like, well, let me see how much AI can help me. And it helped a lot. I was like, I want to do, you know, I want this like thing to slide at a different rate from the thing on the left and the thing on the right. And, you know, it was a little trial and error, but it helped me do that coding. And so the product was just so good. And I can't imagine a client would ever be annoyed with me for using it for coding. I wouldn't think they would because it's not something they would do. I imagine they might get annoyed if they used it for something like, I don't know, writing.
Images.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Because you can't.
Something somebody could see and read. Yeah.
And also there's a copyright issue. Who owns the copyright if AI is involved in the image making?
True.
I understand that's an issue. Interesting. All right. We have a few more minutes, and I do want to also get to, because you just kind of alluded to it, that's the end of your list for how you use it for client stuff. How are you using it in your own business? Give us a little overview of that.
It's helping me write proposals quickly, which is wonderful because proposals can take a long time. And I've really honed the process. So I have, I think, a good, strong proposal. So I have a proposal that has things about why I'm a strong fit for this particular project, for instance. And so what I can do is I can ask AI to really do a lot of that writing for me and apply it to that specific situation. So it's really, it feels like a lot of busy work that I don't have to do. And then I do use it a lot, and I'm still trying to figure this piece out, but for identifying people that I want to work with. So at least I know you have like, I remember when I first started working with you, one of the kind of light bulbs was, oh, you can just go to these websites that are membership organizations for the kinds of clients I want to work with. And then you can find out more about who you might want to work with. And so AI can do a lot of that. And I started letting it do some things rather than just talking to it and using the chat, letting it do things on my computer. And so now I've gotten to the point where if someone just seems interesting to me, or I come across just anything that seems like relevant, I'll just say, can you please add this to like the list of people I want to reach out to and work with? And it'll just add it to the Notion list. It'll do a little research on them too. You know, go to it's amazing what it can do. If I just send the LinkedIn profile, it'll be able to search the web, find out what company they work for, find out what they do, find out, so it can give me a lot of more details that would, again, be a lot of legwork.
Is that Claude also you're using for that?
That's Claude. I only use Claude right now, yeah. Well, except for the image generation stuff.
And why Claude? What do you like about Claude?
Well, it seems like a better company for one thing.
Anthropic.
And yeah, Anthropic. I don't know. I used ChatGPT for a while, and then I just felt like Claude was much better at doing the thinking, the idea generation. But I don't know. I like it.
Yeah, I personally don't think it really matters. It's whichever one you like and gets to know you. And
well, I had a breakthrough recently, though, because like Jenny Blake has this office hours for learning about AI. And I had been using it probably for like a year without realizing that I could create these markdown files.
Which is what?
Have you heard of that?
Tell us what it is.
It's like basically a simple version of what I wanted to know so that it can quickly read it. And so we developed this whole business profile. It took me like a week I spent a lot of time talking to Claude about my business, but now I have this little file. And I make sure that every time I'm talking to it about something important and relevant to my business, that it has read that file, because it hasn't always. That's the thing. You'd think it would, but it doesn't always. So I just always have to make sure it's read it.
How do you know? You tell it to, or you ask it if it has?
I just say, have you read it? And it'll say, no, I haven't. Let me read it.
Oh my God.
I know, that's what's weird, right? But I remember like working on this stuff, and it would forget things about my business, and it would say, oh, what's your business again? And I was like, am I losing my mind here? Like, what is going on? But now this is like, that's helped. And so it's not just that, it remembers, but it has a lot of details about what my goals are, and it's very helpful. So that learning about that was cool.
Cool. All right. Any final thoughts you want to share or suggestions about anything that we've talked about?
No, I think the only other thing I wrote down was that, like, what I think is a little odd in this moment, though, is that it's not a human. And every time I start to want it to be a human, it fails in terms of like wanting to have a relationship with it. I'm not saying I want to have but it's like I try to start acting like it's a human in the way that, and it just keeps not being that. And I think it can't be that. And I do kind of think that's its limitation, and maybe it won't always be that way, but like it can do tasks and it can make amazing things and it can take information and consolidate it and look for patterns. But like when it comes to just that feeling of collaboration, I don't know, you can't really do that with a machine right now. And I think that's where our value still is.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so final question for you, Kate. You sent me a message a couple months ago, I think it was now, that articulated something that I think a lot of people are feeling. And I shared it in one of my office hours for the Simplest Marketing Plan. And I just wanted to read it back to you and see if you still feel this way and or what other thoughts you've had since then about this. All right?
Okay.
You wrote to me, so beautiful. You wrote, it feels like all of humanity is walking in a dark tunnel with a light at the end, ready to spill out into another world. But we have no idea what is there and what we might need to have when we get there. The only thing that I feel certain of investing in is people and relationships and the strength of my own mind, I suppose. What would you say about that now?
Yeah, it's funny actually, because I was having a conversation last night about something. It was like we were talking about being on a tidal wave, like the pace of change. It wasn't only related to AI. And we were like, we don't know if this tidal wave is about to crash or if it's like, if we're just going to like ride this long surfboard for a long time. But it does feel like the quality of the unknown is pretty intense right now. Yeah, but whatever happens, I mean, we're just social creatures. We need each other. We love each other. And so I think that AI in a way like makes me more than ever want to just keep going into those human relationships and meditation for my mind.
Yeah, I love that thing at the end there. And the strength of my own mind, I suppose. I think I wrote back as like, oh no, for sure, the strength of your own mind.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, thank you so much. Tell the people where they can find you online.
Okay. If you go to kpcreativestrategy.com, that is my website. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I just started my own podcast. I'm
Tell us
a
about it.
fledgling podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's called Messy, Beautiful Impact. So yeah, you could look that up too, I guess now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's looking and having conversations about impact and pretty broadly what that means. I work in the social impact space, so there's a lot of nonprofit and foundation voices, just kind of the complexity and messiness.
And actually, let's just connect it to what you just said, because everyone's got a podcast. And even when I suggest to people that they start a podcast, the first thing they say is, oh, but everybody has a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's not like you need advertising on your podcast. I don't have or want any advertising on my podcast. It's just an opportunity for me to have awesome conversations with people who practice what I preach and or have something I think is really interesting to share, and to have them publicly and then share them. And I know for a fact that that's part of what's behind your effort and impulse to do so. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, I mean, the term I keep coming back to is generative conversations, because I really feel like when two humans get together and talk and they have rapport, I don't know, these beautiful things emerge. Why do I like to listen to any podcast of like somebody just talking about anything? But it is really beautiful. And I would say that for me, it's definitely a response to AI right now. Because like I was saying earlier, like this quality of like AI is helping with everything, but it's also lacking something. And I'm not saying like, oh, AI stinks, but it's just made me think, no, these human conversations are really important.
Yeah.
And yes, everybody has a podcast. And actually, there's a guy, Pete Holmes, has a podcast with his wife, and he has this idea that it's a relationship hack. He's like, if your relationship is in trouble, start a podcast with your partner. So yeah, I think it's just a medium, like a creative tool.
Awesome. All right. Thank you again, Kate. And I'm sure we'll have another conversation.
Great. Thanks, Elise.
Did you learn a little something? Do you have new innovative ways you're using AI to do things you could never do before? If so, I hope you will reach out to me, and maybe you'll be a guest on the podcast too. And if you want my help figuring all of this out, I hope you'll take advantage of my free mentoring session. You can find that and lots more resources, including my simplest marketing plan, at marketing-mentor.com. So enjoy, and I'll see you next time.